But anyhow, it's great how you can just use now Copilot Studio with
Yep.
Power Effects in combination like this, and
Yep.
you've seen once little things are supported in that things, and if you use now that if clause and so on, this is something which I will show you in a video now with how you can use
Yep.
it in translation. So, for example, if you want to have it in English or in German, for
Yep.
example, as languages,
Yep.
then this is also a cool use case as well. All
Yeah.
right, cool. Um, I wanted to show you something about, let me just delete this one here because that's not really
Yep.
used anymore. And I show you in that case how it is when you just build, agentification like me in
Yep.
that case. So that we just have this a little demo as well. So I'm very into the Hawaiian culture. That's why I just
Yep.
use Hawaiian things in that case. So
Yep.
this is an HR onboarding stuff. So you're a friend in, or you're becoming now a new employee in the Aloha company, and you have now
Yep.
your digital assistant. This is what Copilot agents are. Your digital assistant, which at the case helps you throughout your company stay there and with help and just put your
Yep.
onboarding together. So which is the role just describes best. Then you have several of that kind of options which you can just choose to say,
Yep.
I'm a functional consultant. That's
Yep.
my heart. And then in that case, it just, grabs, all the technical trainings which you can do. And we're just using the knowledge source Dataverse in the background,
Yep.
combined with a prompt. And it takes now a little bit long because also Dataverse knowledge sources are in preview. So, but as you can see, I have just put in all that kind of information in Dataverse there. So
Nice.
that's why it just bring me now, okay, you can just do the PL200 certification or the
Yep.
PL900 and so on. And then it just asks you which one do you want to do. So if you
Nice.
say, okay, let's say I will only do the PL200, for example,
Yep.
then in that case, it would come with some suggestions. But to be honest,
Yep.
everything is hard coded. So that's not
Yep.
really a demo which is working. In the
Yep.
back, you would have to build all that flows with Power Automate,
Yep.
just
Yep.
to grab the right decisions, to set in Dataverse the right things. And there's a transcript of your employee trainings and so on, which you're just doing
Yep.
also about your project and all that kind of stuff. So this took me a couple, let's say, of hours, 2 or 3 days alone. This
Yep.
one, I just make this as small as possible, and I can only
Yep.
do this by making this very small, just to see how this looks like. Okay, let me just go in here and just make it as small as possible. So you
Yep.
get an idea of this is what Copilot agents will come in and hopefully help you. So these are the things
Yep.
I just have only developed for one use case was a functional consultant
Yep.
and not even put in some logic like Power Automate flows and
Yep.
plugins, actions, whatever.
Yep.
That
Yep.
case, this is everything what will be covered by an agent. And you
Yeah.
don't need to do all that kind of stuff. So this is amazing
Yeah.
because that will save you a lot of time of implementation if it
100%.
works.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest challenge with creating what were Power Virtual Agents and what today are copilots is you have to have this lengthy linear flow, and you've got to think through um, person says, copilot says, person says, copilot says. And again, you've got this linear flow. And as we're able to break this up into actions and smaller topics, we can jump around much more dynamically to give the person a much better experience and not, oh no, I'm tracking down this topic and I've got to start over to get to where I want it to go. So it's going to make authoring these bots a lot faster, but also create a much more dynamic experience for people as they're using them.
All right, awesome. This was a little demonstration, and thank you for all your input, Nathan. The
Yeah, of
question of
course.
all questions is, as we already said, is this everything in preview? So what is needed to get Power of Acts really from preview to production so we can really use it in Copilot Studio?
That's a great question. I would say that based on what I've seen of using Power Effects in topics, it's reasonably stable. And so my guess is that, and this is just my personal opinion, is that the team behind it would be looking at how do we ensure that this is scalable and ready for prime time so that it can be used, across lots of people using this in really scalable situations. They'll probably also be looking at how do we add more functionality to it so that we've got a really good critical mass for go live. So that would be that's just my personal thoughts on what they would be looking at. But what I have seen of it, it's reasonably stable using it in the topics.
Yeah. So I can really sign this up. It's stable so far. What I would
Yep.
like to wish is, let's say, a better editor experience, only in
Yeah.
that small one, it just only supporting smaller expressions you can just put in, right? So
Yep.
if you have a bigger expressions, you
Yep.
have in some areas that window which is just going bigger. This is nice,
Yep.
but the experience can be much better, in that
Yeah.
case if you want to use this. So
Either
that would
that
be,
or a bring IntelliSense to VS Code, so we can go to VS Code and write our
yeah,
expressions and then just copy paste them in.
that would be
Either one
hilarious. That would be fantastic.
would, yeah, either one would make me a happy chappy.
That would be really cool. Like a button, and Joe, we go to
Yep.
Visual Studio Code, for example,
Yeah.
and then do it from there. And the fun part of that is if you would jump there, you would have the full power of Copilot there as well. For example,
Yep.
please write me an expression, right? Because this is not
Yep.
existing at the moment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even PowerFX is simple to do, but that feature, that functionality exists now in the Canvas app. You just write
It's in
down and
Canvas
say,
apps. Yeah.
"Huh,
And there is an option for it in formula columns for Dataverse. There's a little
yeah,
mini Copilot that will
yeah,
do that for you.
yeah."
Yeah.
And it helps because still, even if PowerFX is an easy language to learn, it's still, especially for end users like business people, it's still
Yep.
hard to do. And if you just express what they want in natural language,
Yep.
that would be a huge thing, I would say,
Oh,
if that would be a
definitely.
Copilot Studio as well.
Yeah, particularly when you need to get into nesting, because you can kind of get your head around, oh, I need to add these things together or something like that. But when you've got to nest a bunch of expressions together, that's where I think a Copilot would be really helpful, particularly for people that don't come from as much of a technical background, because that does take a bit of doing to start getting your head around.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're at the end. So the summary of all this is, Copilot Studio and PowerFX. I would say that works. That is applicable to everything what PowerFX is. I would say, it could be a
Yep.
little bit much more, like we see that in other products. So it's unfair to mention every time Canvas apps, but we see,
Yep.
how it comes now into Power Pages, for example, what cool
Yep.
stuff you can do there now. Also there in preview, we see that in Power Automate Desktop. And there's
Yep.
always some kind of signs of that it comes as well into Power Automate Cloud Flows as well.
Yep.
So we see how it becomes more and more relevant, in the Power Platform,
Yep.
where
Yep.
Copilot Studio is still some kind of a part. If you just look at the wave release, it's still listed there. So I just still
Yep.
say, okay, it somehow still belongs there.
Yep.
And I would say what we have seen so far is usable. I don't know if I would recommend to use it in a production environment. I would say for today, no, because it had still the preview sign. If something is messed
Yep.
up, not working in your project, and if you ask Microsoft for help
Yep.
with support ticket, they will say it's a
Yep.
preview feature, right?
Yeah.
So
I'll give you an example. So 3 months ago now, I presented at the Scottish Power Platform user group, and I went in to take a look at my plugins. And I'm glad I did before the demo because the PowerFX team had decided that you could no longer use set. You needed to use patch, and so all
okay.
my plugins weren't working, and I had to go in and change them. Then, before Power Platform Classmates last month, I went in and took a look, and they've now reverted it, and now you can use set, and patch wasn't working. And so again, this is what we're signing up for with preview features. And in a demo environment, that's what you're signing up for, and frankly, it's just part of the fun. But in production, you would not want that happening, right? You would not want your plugins to suddenly stop working because of a change like that. And so, yeah, absolutely. Take a look at preview features, play with them, try them with current requirements that you're getting on your projects just to see what they can do. But do not put them in production. Yeah.
I absolutely sign that. So here, folks, everything what is in preview, don't use it in production.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having that conversation.
Yeah, of course,
That was
Bülent. That was
really fun
fun.
to do. Definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was awesome,
And
man.
in that case, thank you very much for watching and talk to you soon. Bye bye.
See you later.